Today, on Be Something Wonderful, blow the lid off of subconscious programs, wake up to you. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Big video today. And I have a few things to say. There was a comment on the channel about subconscious programs, where one of you said that Abraham Hicks says that programming the subconscious, or the idea of the subconscious programs, is one of the biggest misunderstandings, quote, in your society. This is what she said. And then the subscriber said, she says, or they say, that you don't have to reprogram it. So guys, I responded to that, but I really want to hit this today, this idea and more. And Abraham Hicks and all of the spiritual greats, nobody's wrong. They all have their view of it. Remember, even the ones that are channeling non-physical entities, like Esther Hicks channeling Abraham, it's still coming through a 3D filter of Esther Hicks. Just remember that. That's why the idea of saying that it's the most misunderstood in your society just sounds, there's a taint of judgment there, right? That non-physical, or that love that non-physical is, wouldn't make. So just know that. And remember, when we talk about subconscious programs, when we use that term, that's an analogy that a lot of teachers use to refer to, hear this, the assumptions and beliefs that you believe so much, that you believe they're so true and so real, that you believe they are reality. You believe they're the truth of reality. And therefore, they become automatic, right? Where they're sitting in subconscious as all thoughts, all feelings, all images, all experiences are dropped into consciousness. It's all consciousness, right? It's one mind. There's no really division, right? But we call it subconscious. Why? Because we're not aware of it all the time. Do you hear this? It's just, the subconscious only means below awareness, below conscious awareness. It just means those thoughts and assumptions, those beliefs that we have, that were formed, that we believe they're so true, that they're just below our current awareness. It doesn't mean they're out of reach. It doesn't mean that we can't be aware of them. I think one of you mentioned that Esther even had somebody on a hot seat and walked them by to show them why they're not subconscious. But even then, as that person realizes that's a belief in their subconscious, it's still there in consciousness until they choose, until they decide to believe something else, to assume something else. Otherwise, it will still appear to be automatic, right? And sort of what we call wreaking havoc on your life. But it's really not about that. And I'm going to unpack this today like I never have before. The first thing I want to say, there was a client session that I had a few days ago, and this is what the BSW client said. My relationships always end the same way. We fight, or in other words, she finally admitted, I start the fight actually, and then I break up with him. All our relationships, several relationships, her whole life, our relationships with this, right? So we're going to get back to this and show you what we really mean by, quote, subconscious programs or reprogramming, right? Remember, the name, it's not the name or the title or the label. Right? Programming, it sounds so ominous, it sounds so dark. It's not, they're just beliefs and assumptions. So remember, your assumptions and beliefs create your reality and your entire life experience. All of it, right? Your assumptions and beliefs are formed by your perception of your experiences in your life. These perceptions, in other words, these mental images or memories, that are then stored in the subconscious mind as programs, but they're simply beliefs and assumptions. Do you see how that follows, right? And remember, most of these assumption beliefs are established that you see as truth, that you see as reality in your young years. By the age of 6 or 7 is what the authorities say, usually. So let's really hit this idea today. All experiences are neutral. until you assign meaning to them, until you give them meaning with your perceptions and filters through your beliefs and assumptions. You filter them through your conscious perception. Do you see it? You label it. You see then when you get new experiences that are similar or related, you see these new experiences through these filters and tend to dismiss the experiences that contradict these beliefs and assumptions, or what we're calling subconscious programs, that are beliefs and assumptions. Remember, they're beliefs and assumptions about yourself and reality. Anything that contradicts those, you believe they're too good to be true, or that they don't fit, or you just dismiss them outright. You don't see them. Because those beliefs and assumptions within, quote, your subconscious or consciousness, you believe to be so true, you believe them so much that they feel like reality, that you might not even see the experience that is contrary to it. Right? You're going to see it through that filter. You simply don't perceive contrary experiences, or it's too good to be true. It can't be. And so then your tendency, of course, your subconscious tendency, the subconscious trajectory, is to prove those assumptions and beliefs are right. It's in our survival mode to prove that we're right. Right? Many of these beliefs and assumptions that you perceive as truth were formed by the time you were 6 or 7 years old. This is big. Let's hit this a little bit more. It's not so much that you're totally unaware of these beliefs and assumptions. I've talked about this. It's not like that you can't access them or any of that. Just like Abraham Hicks showed when she had someone in the hot seat recalling it. But it doesn't mean they simply go away when you're aware of them. Right? You're going to believe and assume something else, right? But rather they appear so real or true to you, you don't question them or see them as reality. It's not so much that you're totally unaware, right? They're in consciousness, and you're a self-aware conscious being, so you have access to everything, all the way up to God. All the way up to the big guy. Right? But rather they appear so real and true, you don't question them or see them as reality. Nothing is hiding out. Nothing's hiding out in a dark place to sabotage your life, right? It's not really about sabotaging. You would never do that to yourself, right? It's about you believing or assuming something that you feel no longer serves you. But they must have served you at one time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have believed or assumed them. And many times it's because we viewed them as part of our survival, as part of our identity, something we needed to be who we are. Do you see it? Subconscious mind is not self-aware. It's sub or below conscious awareness. That's what subconscious means. It's below consciousness. It's below your conscious awareness of who you are in that relation to your divinity and all that. Right? It is impersonal, which means what? It doesn't mean it's cold and uncaring. It means it's not aware of itself being separate from anything else. Hear this. That's what impersonal means with the subconscious. It's not aware that it's separate. Your self-awareness as the conscious you believe you're separate. You're aware as an individualized aspect of God. You're aware that you're separate. Right? You're aware that you have a separate personality, but the subconscious knows nothing about that. That's where the power lies. It's impersonal, meaning it believes there's no separation. Therefore, it has access and is all of infinity. It has that unlimited power to bring any impression, from any source that you impress on the subconscious to full manifestation in 3D reality. It's unlimited. We only limit it by our thoughts and our beliefs and the way we color it, right? Wow, that's big. The subconscious mind means it experiences everything as itself. It has no awareness of objects. In other words, anything objective outside of it. Do you hear this? That's why it's impersonal. It's impersonal and it's subjective. But what's the other meaning? So objective, it experiences it all within itself, right? There's nothing outside. It doesn't believe there's anything outside of it. It believes it's the only thing, right? Also, its subjective mind is both under the conscious awareness, but it's also subject to the impressions or beliefs that you consciously allow in. This is what Jesus called the door, right? What are you going to allow through the door? Conscious awareness, subject to its impressions, beliefs, and assumptions. No conscious power. It has no conscious power. The subconscious has no conscious power to choose or discern. It accepts all impressions as truth from any and all sources. Do you hear this? The news or whatever you experienced when you were a child, that all became impressed or part of your consciousness, right? Once accepted, it produces all impressions in their likeness. So and I've talked about this, it's never about the subconscious rejecting anything. It doesn't have that power. It doesn't have the power to choose or discern or reject or sort through things and label. It doesn't label things good or bad. It accepts all impressions that you drop into it. All impressions that you assume and believe and perceive as real. Right? And it accepts it all. It's not about rejecting anything. It's about it's really about the frequency and the emotion, right, of these experiences as you drop them into that greater subconscious. It's the impersonal power. So keep in mind, although it doesn't have the ability to choose or discern, that's what makes it powerful. Because it can't get your thoughts and fears and doubts and worries can't get in the way of it. It accepts everything. It doesn't start worrying or doubting, is this possible or is this not possible? It accepts it all. It absolutely knows it's unlimited and everything can come to fruition. So it's the impersonal power that makes the subconscious mind unlimited or an unlimited creative force. It's that power, right? It's only limited by the thoughts, assumptions, and beliefs impressed upon it. That's the only limitation. What are you consciously impressing upon it, right? Or what are you unconsciously, right, accepting? Wow. Right? What are you unconsciously accepting that's getting impressed in the subconscious? Because that's where a lot of our creating goes. It's when we go unconscious, when we are not aware, right? And we start reacting to these beliefs and assumptions that were impressed on the subconscious. We start reacting and reinforcing them. Do you see this? The subconscious only reasons deductively, which is both a source of unlimited power and a limitation depending on what's impressed on it. Right? This is big. Remember that you, as a self-aware, self-conscious, self-knowing being with the free will to choose, you get to decide what seeds to drop, what to produce. But many times we just accept our perceptions as truth. We accept whatever we're seeing, feeling, thinking, or believing. And it gets impressed in the subconscious. Do you see this? And then that becomes those become those programs that are automatically carried out. That's why they call them programs. They're automatically carried out by the subconscious. Right? Why are they automatic? Remember, it's the subconscious. Remember, also takes care of your body. Remember, imagine if it didn't automatically carry out your breathing or pump your blood. You would have some problems. That's the automatic and personal nature of subconscious. So don't get hung up on programs or say it's not about reprogramming. We're not even talking about that. We're saying and we're not talking about that you're not totally aware of it. You're aware of your breathing, but it's still run automatically by that greater subconscious, even when you're aware of it. Right? Okay, I'm going to breathe. Well, thank God that subconscious doesn't discern or make decisions on its own. Thank God that subconscious doesn't think for itself and say, well, Tom, I'm deciding I'm not going to pump your blood today. I'm not going to breathe today. Do you get the power here that we're talking about? It has to. That's why the planets are not falling out of the space. And the sun comes up every morning, and the grass grows, and your hair grows. It's all because of the automatic and personal nature of those, quote, programs. Do you see it? That's what we're talking about here. So the subconscious only reasons deductively, which is both a source of unlimited power and a limitation depending on what's impressed on it. So this BSW client then said, so as we talked more, she says, well, when I was little, my parents always fought. My father left and they divorced. So hear this. She was aware of this. It's not that she wasn't aware of this belief or assumption. She just, and she identified that's probably a belief or assumption that relationships end in a fight and the guy leaves. So, but she's still being, 10 minutes in the hot seat doesn't necessarily change that in the Abraham hot seat if you're still going to be allowed to be run by those automatic, quote, programs or beliefs and assumptions. Guys, you see what I'm getting at, right? The assumption is that she accepts as true all relationships end in a fight, in a painful separation. The situation then comes up. Now situations come up that are going to be run or automatically and impersonally based on that assumption. So she finds that she's in a relationship. What is her subconscious, that greater subconscious within her? The deduction is the relationship must end in pain. Remember, the subconscious works deductively. It accepts everything that's impressed as truth. It doesn't question anything. If you say all relationships end in a fight, if that's your assumption, the subconscious doesn't question it. It accepts it. It doesn't matter whether it's really true or not. None of that matters. It accepts it. Then when you're in a situation, like a relationship, then you're moved by that subconscious to bring about that result, right? You're moved unconsciously. The relationship then must end in pain, right? You have that whole survival mode of pain avoidance, right? You want to avoid that pain. You want to seek pleasure. The survival mode. Remember, all consciousness, everything is alive with consciousness. But not everything is self-aware, right? A rock is alive with consciousness, but a rock is not self-aware. A rock is not self-knowing. It doesn't know itself as consciousness. That's the advantage we have. We're self-aware, we're self-knowing, and we have the freedom, the free will to choose. A rock doesn't. It's run automatically. A seed that's dropped in the soil of the subconscious is run automatically. A tree just grows automatic with those programs impersonally. It becomes a tree. The seed or the acorn or whatever it is gets dropped in. The pumpkin seed gets dropped in and a pumpkin is produced automatically, impersonally. Imagine if the soil said, well, I don't want to produce a pumpkin. Where would we be? Where would we be if we dropped seeds and the soil says, no, not today, not going to happen? Do you get this, guys? So it must be produced. The outcome, the deduction, in other words, deductive thinking, the outcome, reinforces the false premise or the assumption over and over again. That deduction just reinforces that assumption. So it gets the neurons that fire together, wire together. That's what they mean. It becomes more ingrained. It becomes more of an ingrained pattern, right? The trenches get dug more and more and remember, it's the spiritual firing, wiring as well. So the outcome of the deduction, deductive thinking, it accepts the premise as true, even though it doesn't serve you, or you don't want to believe that, or it's not an assumption that you want, over and over again. What you subconsciously assume to be true, you believe to be the truth about yourself and reality, and therefore you don't question them. You just don't question them. Like my client, believing it be truth. But when you're conscious, when you're self-aware, which is your advantage, which is the conscious mind, that's the advantage of the conscious mind. It gets to choose. It's self-aware, unlike the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is intelligent for sure, but it's not self-knowing, it's not self-aware as that intelligence. Do you see the difference? So, the awesome power of the subconscious is its inherent nature to create and reproduce any image, any belief, any assumption, impression without question. That's the power, right? It doesn't have the inductive power like your conscious mind does to sort through things, to discern it, right? And what we'll see in a few minutes, that's actually the power of your conscious mind, that it can discern. So when new relationship comes up, you can pause and not react to it and not follow those subconscious programs. You can be awake, you can be aware, you can connect with that higher you can connect with your higher thoughts, your higher assumptions, and decide to do something differently, right? So remember, this idea, this awesome power of the subconscious, its nature to reproduce any image, any impression, it also can be its biggest weakness. It automatically and personally carries out all programs, beliefs, and assumptions. That can also be a weakness if you're allowing those impressions through the door to be dropped in the soil, if you're allowing things that don't serve you or not what you wanted. That's what happens. That becomes a weakness. It's that same awesome power that carries out your bodily functions, sustains the perfect harmony of the nature of the universe. Like I said, it can't decide not to pump your blood. It can't decide that the planets are no longer going to be in space or the sun's not going to come up. Where would we be, right? It's this awesome power. Its awesome power lies in the idea that it can't think for itself. It must be consciously directed by a higher awareness or a higher, quote, frequency, right? Remember, you're self-aware, you're self-knowing, you're a higher rate of vibration, a higher frequency. You can determine that, right? You can control the lower states by your conscious awareness. You get to decide. That's all that means, right? The will of consciousness is the will to live or exist because it's alive. Consciousness is everything. Remember, you have the absolute, that presence, that love. Then that absolute, the first manifestation of that presence or that love is the infinite mind or the divine mind. Within that divine mind are all minds, including yours. You are a center of God consciousness. You're a center of that divine mind. Within that mind is that substance of God, not matter, but substance, the substance of consciousness that creates all forms. Right? And within that consciousness is the inherent will to exist, to be. Wow. So subconscious functions or ensures survival in the 3D world, right? Because it ensures survival of itself, the will to live, that's the same will that you adopt as consciousness to survive in the 3D world. And remember, that served us at one time. In the Stone Age or back when we needed to fight for our survival. But a lot of those beliefs and assumptions no longer serve you. Just like my client, that might have served her then, right? For some reason, it might have, she was impressionable, but that might have served her seeing what was going on, but it no longer serves her. This means your beliefs and assumptions or programs are carried out with that instinct for survival, the instinct to be right. That's where we get that from. If we're not right, then there's that subconscious instinct or belief that it threatens our very existence and that we won't exist unless we're right. That's where that thought to be right comes from. Right? And then so we fight to be right. That's why many times beliefs and assumptions appear so difficult to change. They threaten your identity. They threaten your survival. They threaten your need to be, that's why you have that need to be right. All these ensure assumptions and beliefs are proved true. That's why. We have to prove that assumption or belief true. Otherwise, like this client, it threatens her identity or who she believes she is. It threatens her what she considers her reality because she believes that belief and assumption or that program is reality. Do you see it? So if she gets in a relationship, it must end, right? For this pain avoidance, it must end. She's got to end it, right? Because if she doesn't, it means if a relationship works out, that threatens her very survival because now she's not right about her basic assumptions or beliefs about who she thinks she is. Do you see how crazy this is, right? You subconsciously, automatically and personally create outcomes in accordance with your beliefs and assumptions, and you then accept them as true because of your need to be right, which reinforces the original false or limiting belief. It reinforces the original assumption that the subconscious just accepted on the face of it because it doesn't have the power to discern. You do as self-awareness, as consciousness. So how do you reprogram the subconscious, right? And again, what are we really talking about? Remember that consciousness includes all memories, all thoughts, all experiences, all feelings of everything that is, was, or ever be. So it's not about, quote, reprogramming it. It's about dropping new beliefs, dropping new assumptions with frequency, with feeling into that new subconscious, and then that becomes your life experience, right? We're talking about, it's about taking a top-down, a deductive approach, the law of assumption. Assume who you want to be. Assume what you want to believe, right, about yourself and reality. Then that becomes your reality, as opposed to bottom up, right? By trying to struggle with those assumptions and beliefs and change them and work with them and dig them up. Remember, there's no reason to go dig up bones and find out what are you believing. It's very obvious when you look around you. That's why Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead, right? Identify with your real self, your I am, that Christ within you, right? The more self-aware, the more focused, the more self-knowing, the more discerning you are, the higher level of consciousness. This is what determines our level of, quote, what we term as positivity. But it really means purity, pure, right? Remember, consciousness, that absolute, is pure positive energy or pure positive consciousness, or the absolute is pure presence or pure love. So the closer you are to that, the higher your vibration and the higher your level of consciousness. That's what it means by frequency, vibration, and all that stuff. So it's not about positive thinking, it's about, as I said in yesterday's video, it's about positive being. It's about being more self-aware, being more self-knowing, identifying with your I am of who you really are, right? Then you align naturally with your higher thoughts and beliefs of unlimitedness and inherent divinity, right? Practice the presence of God versus the absence, right? We practice the absence. Remember in yesterday's video, I talked about that you are the center of God consciousness. What does that mean? That means that if God is the whole and God is one, it's one, 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 as I've said before, that one can never be divided up. So wherever God is, the whole of God is. And wherever you are, God is. And so that means wherever you are, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're doing, the whole of God is within you. You've got the whole of infinity, the whole of that greater creative medium at your fingertips, right? So, but we practice the absence of it. The doubts, the fears, the worries. What do we got to reprogram? What do we got to look up? What bones do we got to dig up to get better, to be improved, to be more worthy? All of that keeps you from what you want, right? The key to harnessing the infinite power of the subconscious mind, that divine creative medium of God, is awareness, attention, and the free will to choose. Being more self-aware, being more self-knowing, and accessing your free will. That's what it means to increase your vibe, right? Your vibration. It's to be more self-aware. It's not about trying to think positive. It's about being more aware. And when you're more aware, and when you know yourself more as that greater I am, then you become, quote, more positive. You experience more elevated emotions of gratitude, of love. Do you see the difference? Versus inductively trying to move up the scale of the emotional scale, trying to be happier, trying to be more loving, trying to be more kind. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a way to get there, and you can get there by moving up the emotional scale. But really, it's about positive being. It's about knowing who you are. It's about becoming more aware, more self-knowing as God, as an aspect, as an individualized aspect of God, and choosing. Then it's top down, it's deductive, right? The higher these are, the higher you are in consciousness. Or in other words, the higher you are in vibration and frequency. And the more attuned you are to your unlimited I amness. All other beliefs and assumptions then fall away. That's how it's done. All others that don't serve you anymore fall away. Right? Remember what I said. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But really, it's I am, therefore I think. The I am comes before everything. In the beginning, God. Right? Thought comes after. Right? So it's not I think, therefore I am. It's I am, therefore I think. And you get to decide what to believe, what to assume, and what to think. That's so powerful. That is Blow the Lid off of subconscious programs and wake up to you. I am your host, Tom Caron, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. We have a group on Facebook called the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors. It's an open group, but it's private, so you can join. It's open for you to join, but then it's private. You can share your messages, insight, and guidance with others on the channel. You can find that at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. You can also follow us on Instagram at Tom Caron, at Twitter at Tom Caron, and all of our information is on our website at tomcaron.com or besomethingwonderful.com. Also, guys, we do have a membership option now, and I just released a video last night that talked about the conscious, that self-awareness in the conscious mind. And so you can feel free to join that channel. Remember, it's a way to support Be Something Wonderful and get additional content. There'll be a link in the description, as in every video now, where you can have the option to join. But if you don't, no worries. There's going to be more powerful content every day on the public channel as well. With great love, with great light, and infinite gratitude, this is Tom. See you soon.